A little while ago I completed my first ever Pokémon Nuzlocke, which was in Fire Red. So I thought that the best thing to do was just to do another one and in the next gen. So I started up one of my favorite ever childhood games, which was Pokémon SoulSilver, which we will be Nuzlocking today. And if you do enjoy this video, I'd like to ask you to please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more, and let's get straight into it. So after speaking to our mom for the final time ever, finding Lyra? I don't know what her name is, then being pushed around by our rival, we were finally able to get our very own Pokemon. Which was a hard decision for me because I know that Cyndaquil probably would have been the best, but I used to always pick Totodile, so I decided to go with Totodile. I mainly thought it was a bad decision because we basically get a free red Gyarados in this game, but we received Totodile and that was the start of our journey. So I called him Croaky, which is a crisp from my area, and we could finally start our journey. And we started off by talking to Professor Oak for a bit, and beating our rival for the very first time, who hasn't been named yet. And I'm sure that this time around we will give him a very appropriate and grown-up name. Yeah, that was never gonna happen really, was it? And after painfully watching Lyra catch a Rattata, we could finally actually start this Nuzlocke. And our first Pokemon to join our team was this wheeled Pidgey, which I called after, of course, our last Nuzlocke Pidgey. We then basically just started beating up everything we saw and every single trainer we saw until we were a bit higher level and could easily beat everything around us. And up next in the Dark Cave we found this Geodude, which I called Linda because this time around it was a girl. We also killed our next encounter, which was this Weedle, but I'll be honest, I'm not too mad about that. Oh yeah, and in Bellsprout Tower we caught a Rattata, which I called Dave. And after beating the Bellsprout Elder, I felt really good about myself, so I thought we could defeat the first gym now. So we decided to challenge Falkner, which in all honesty was just very easy. We just spammed Rock Throw with Linda and that was basically it. I don't think I've ever had a gym this easy, to be honest. On to our next route we caught an Ekans, which I called Roll. And after going into Onion Cave and not finding anything new, so no potential catches for us, we went on to our next route, caught Despero and called it Celine. We then beat up a few Team Rocket grunts. And of course they're supposed to be leader, which is he supposed to be special? I really don't know, I don't care about the story. And afterwards we decided to fight Bugsy, which, should I really talk about? We have a flying type. So this was always gonna be very easy. See. Well, there goes Burr 2. Go in, Linda. We almost couldn't even get attached to this Pidgey before it died, so yeah, once again a Geodude sweep through the gym. It doesn't really feel right, but that's basically what happened. Oh yeah, and I forgot to say it before, but we did actually catch a Zubat in the Slowpoke well, so yeah, I called it Bruise. Because of Batman. Oh yeah, and our egg actually hatched that we got from Professor what's his name, and I called it Aggie. Yeah, I'm not great with naming things. And after beating Bugsy we had to fight our rival again, which in all honesty was quite easy considering we had Bruce and Linda who could just sweep his entire team purely through a few attacks, and it did take a while, but we did eventually pull through. And after beating him again, we went into Elix Forest, which was possibly a chance to catch a new Pokemon, but I didn't catch anything here. But we did catch something on our next route, which was this Drowsy, which I called Barry. On to Goldenrod City, in which there is a game corner, and we can actually find something very good in here. As you can buy a Dratini here for only 2,100 coins, which you have to get by playing this game. So I genuinely think I played this game for about a few hours while only using basically like a cheat thing online to find every possible coin, and somehow I finally got enough coins to buy the Dratini. And when I got it, I decided to call it Worm with the renamer in the city itself. And after training for a bit, we actually got our first evolution when Croaky evolved into Croconaw. Oh yeah, and we did also catch a Nidoran female, which I called Lebronina, because our Nidoran male from the last one was called Lebron. But then while battling some random trainer on some random route, I accidentally let Celine die. Not my greatest moment ever, but it happened. Very preventable, I must say, but that does mean that we've now lost both starting flying types basically. And because last time we used LeBron quite a lot, I decided to not use the female Nidoran that we caught. So for now I put Barry on the team. And then came one of the hardest gyms in a Nuzlocke. Because this Whitney, I don't want to swear, but she has a very good Pokemon that knows rollout. Like her Clefairy was easy as hell to beat, like that was absolutely nothing to us. But here comes the boss music, when I put in Barry to hopefully do something to this Miltank. My entire plan here was to basically just spam Hypnotize with Barry and hope for the best, but after that didn't work I decided to push out Linda and hope that she could possibly carry us again. But sadly, after having a lot of failed magnitudes and thinking I could still tank a stomp, Linda was lost to this absolute monster of a unit. And after that I switched into Worm, which we then also immediately almost lost. But I switched into Barry, sacrificing him to hopefully have a free switch. So we put on Eggy, yawned the Miltank to hopefully put it to sleep, switched out to Croaky, and then Croaky eventually killed it with a few bites. But this was a very tough battle, and we've lost 2 Pokemon here, which I wasn't really hoping for, but after a bit of crying from the stupid gym leader, we eventually got the badge as well. And because we've now lost both Barry and Linda, we decided to return Libranina to the team. So then we beat up a tree for absolutely no reason at all. Then we went into a tower with some legendary dogs down there, and then we had to fight our rival once again. And once again we had a few type advantages, so it was honestly just really easy to beat him again. And after that we decided to just jump the dogs and make them scared of us and run away. And in Mount Mortar we eventually caught this Machop, which I called Dwayne. And while on Route 38 we eventually caught this Magnemite, which I called Maggie. We then went on to beat every old lady in the gym, which eventually got us to this point, which meant that Eggy was evolving into Togetic. Which I know isn't the best Pokemon, but it would help us in this ghost type gym. And after looking up gift Pokemon in SoulSilver, I eventually realized that I forgot to get an Eevee. So we decided to drop Wayne in the box, and we got the Eevee, which I called Umbreo, because in all honesty I just had no idea what to call it. And I then spent a long ass time just walking and cycling around the map to get the friendship up with this Eevee. But after doing that for a while I got very bored and decided to just challenge Morty anyway. And once again we actually had quite an easy time with this gym. I thought it would have been a lot harder, but to be honest, his Ghastlies just weren't really scary at all. And then when we got Gengar up against us, I decided to switch in Eggy, who did almost die trying to save us, but it did take a while, but eventually we did get through this gym as well, with a little bit of a scare, but not really that difficult. So 4th gym done, and we're still going strong, but with a few deaths along the way. But we were still doing really well in my opinion, so I just decided to go on and hopefully get some more Pokemons along the way. So after teaching Croaky to surf, we eventually caught this Tentacool, which I called Octo, which is the Dutch name for Squidward. And while surfing to Cyanwood City, we actually got a new evolution Ornithine, with Bruce evolving into Golbat, which I absolutely love because I really want to get a Crobat in this Nuzlocke. And while finding a few trainers in the gym of Cyanwood City, we actually got our wish when Bruce evolved into Crobat. And because this is a fighting type gym, I decided to just train against every possible trainer here to get Bruce to a bit of a higher level so we could actually defeat the gym leader. And after leveling our Pokemons up a bit, we got a few more evolutions, which you can see here as Maggie evolved, Croaky evolved, and even Worm evolved, which just made our team look very, very strong. So I decided to fight against Chuck, who, as you probably guessed, was a complete pushover using Bruce, as Bruce just honestly wiped the floor with his entire team. But it did take a little while as he kept healing, but he just wasn't that strong, I'll be honest. Like, one flying type and we then also got Fly from his wife, which in all honesty is just amazing because I really need that. I was walking so much in this game. So after getting Fly, I decided to go back to Violet City because I know, after a little while, that I missed an egg here. Because apparently you can just get an egg from this guy. I mean, the guy on the right. So we dropped Eggy in the box because we needed a new space for another egg Pokemon, and we eventually got a new egg. So you know what time it is, it's time to cycle back and forth to eventually watch this egg hatch and get a shiny Slugma. Like honestly, I wasn't recording my voice here, but
I was speechless. This is my first actual shiny that isn't a red Gyarados that I caught in any Pokemon game. Like, I was so surprised that I genuinely didn't know what to do. I just kept staring at this screen, and I'm still so surprised that we got this. But I named it Shinma and I put it in our team. I know Slugma and Magcargo, or whatever its name is, ain't that great of a Pokemon, but damn, I was gonna use this one. Like, genuinely, why? How? I would have never wanted Slugma to be my first shiny, but I don't give a damn. I don't care how bad this Pokemon is. I wanna use it. And we don't have a fire type yet, so this is actually might work out well for us. So I decided to train him while going through the lighthouse and eventually get Yasmin the medicine that she needed for the Ampharos. I'll be honest, this is like one of those points that it just took so long to do and it wasn't even that worth it. Just another story point which I don't really care about. But I do want to say it again. We got a shiny from a egg, which we got because I just randomly forgot that we could get an egg there, but we got a shiny from it. I still can't believe that we got a fucking shiny from that egg. And it isn't even like an amazing Pokemon, but I love it either way. And because Shinma wasn't actually like, you spawned at level 1, so we couldn't really use it against Yasmin, but it was still very cool to have it. And even though this battle was really tough, we once again did pull through without any deaths, so I'm very happy about it. And it was mainly due to the fact that Maggie and Worm were just type effective against... They weren't even effective. Steel types just weren't effective against us, so it was quite a decent like battle between us. Afterwards, I went down another route, which, I'll be honest, I forgot which one it is, and we found Suicune again. So he pushed us out and ran away again. And afterwards we decided to just train for a little bit, catch this Fluffy, and just never really use it again. But we did train for a little while and beat a few Pokemons which made Shinma almost faint. Almost. Just about didn't. And I'll be honest, I just kept battling. It was quite easy, but I did get a bit of a scare. But we did also get through the Lake of Rage and got this red shiny Gyarados, which is our second shiny of the entire run, which is weird to say. But of course we did also catch that one, but I decided against using it for a little while because I already really overused Gyarados in our last Nuzlocke, but I called this one red because, well, you know, he's red. We then witnessed Lance murder a guy and we decided to go follow him for some reason into the Rocket Rideout. This was a part of the game that, once again, like, the story just takes over a bit much for me because I don't want to sit here and battle a lot of Zubats and Drowsies to just for no real big amount of XP as well. But it was once again good training for Shinma, I guess, so I can't really complain that much. And after resting with Lance for a bit, I thought we were finally over this whole spiel, but we had a lot more to do and a lot more battles to fight. We then fought this cosplaying Team Rocket leader who was once again really easy to beat. Like, they just have Zubats and sometimes a coughing. It ain't that hard. Afterwards we had a double team battle with Lance against the mommy Team Rocket Grunt, who, like every single Rocket team member before her, was just very easy to beat. And Lance also did quite help with it. And after killing some innocent electrodes, we finally defeated this entire plot point. So after that we could finally enter the gym and try to beat Bryce, who, like every single trainer before him in my mind, was very easy to beat. Like, the only thing that could have caused a little trouble was his Piloswine, and we had a Feraligatr who could just surf spam, and Maggie just dealt with every other of his Pokemon, so another gym. Yeah, just like that we've defeated the 7th gym. In my opinion, it's going a bit too well. Like, I don't even think I have that good of a team, but we're doing this quite easily without any really important death so far. You see, ladies and gentlemen, that is what is called foreshadowing. And of course, because this is a Pokemon game, we have to go through a lot of story time before we can actually go to the Elite Four and the final gym. So after getting ourselves a Team Rocket outfit, we could somehow apparently just go through their entire team without anybody noticing us. Until one person. Which of course had to be our asshat rival, which hasn't done anything this entire game that was any importance to the story. And he has just basically been annoying the entire game. Which, fair enough, that is what a rival should be, but it's still annoying. And even though we were at the exact same point as we were a few minutes ago, currently we can just battle this Team Rocket grunt instead of having to put on a Team Rocket outfit. I really don't get this part of the story, but I just don't get the story at all. I don't get why we're doing this. I just want to beat the gym and the Elite Four. And of course this had a lot of fucking Team Rocket grunts with just Ratatas, Koffings, Grimers, basically nothing useful at all. We also had to fight Patrol again, and while we did that, I just thought it was going to be like another very easy just Team Rocket battle, but I sent out Shinma. He did decently against his Weezing, it wasn't the best, but then I switched out to Bruce, and this happened. Yeah. So we just lost like one of our best Pokemons and one of our favorite Pokemons of this entire run to a Weezing, to an unnecessary plot point, to an explosion. Yeah, I love this. I love every story mode in fucking Pokemon. I hate it all. But we did eventually beat Patrol, and yeah, afterwards we had to go to eventually get the director from this radio tower. I honestly could care less. So we dropped our dead Bruce in the box, which hurt a lot to do because I absolutely learned to love this Pokemon. I thought it was amazing. But I did need a new Pokemon that could learn Fly, so I got our Eggy back. Oh yeah, and we did have another fight with Asshat, and I'll let you guess what happened. Yeah, no deaths again, he is absolutely woeful. And then we had to fight the Mommy Team Rocket leader again. And I know I'm skipping over quite a few plot points here, but like I said before, I could honestly care less, and I will only show you the most important parts of these plot points because I never lost a single Pokemon other than Bruce in these, so still feels bad. We then went to the top of the radio tower and saw this guy that we haven't seen before, so I thought, wow, this is gonna be like an amazing big boss, and it's just another random executive from Team Rocket. And apparently his name is Archer. Like, I honestly haven't seen him before, so I don't really care, but like every single Team Rocket grunt or leader before him, it was just very easy to beat him, and apparently that was just it. That was just the only reason, and then he just said, well, we're gonna lose every battle, so I'm just gonna disband Team Rocket again. Bye bye. And after training for a little bit more, we got this evolution. I like the silver a lot better, but it's still shiny, I don't care.
But after that amount of just horrendous stuff, we get to do more horrendous stuff with some ice puzzles in the ice path. We had to go through this to get to the next gym and the next town / city. So I just looked up how to do it on YouTube and just followed every single step. And after a long time we finally got out to Route 44, in which we found another Pokemon to add potentially to our latest team. Yes, we found a Tangela, which I caught and decided to call Ball, because once again I'm very original. And because Umbreon was taking a long ass time to evolve, we decided to bring Ball with us. But after finally completing all of that stuff, we finally got to the last city before we got to the Elite Four. And because the Blackthorn City gym was actually based around dragon types, I was just gonna train Dragonair in this gym and just hope for the best. But I also realized halfway through that our Croaky actually knows Ice Fang, so this should still be quite easy. It will be hard because dragon types are very strong, but we should do this. And Claire's Ace, Kingdra, is actually quite scary, but we do just simply have an electric type in our team, so I do think we should be able to do it quite easily. I mean, we're beating all of the trainers beforehand quite easily, so this shouldn't be that bad. Oh yeah, and we also caught a Wobbuffet. in a cave somewhere. Yeah, I never used it, so I'm putting it in there just because look how long it took me before I even caught it. And we were actually quite underleveled for this gym, so I just decided to train Ball up until he could possibly evolve, which it took a long ass time, I'll be honest. Like, it took me a long time to get him to level 34. He actually evolves at 33, but I pressed B because I wasn't recording at that point, so I thought it wouldn't take that long, but it took a long time to finally get a tank growth in the team. And I'll be honest, I did get a bit sidetracked because apparently the Safari Zone was open. And because I count every single area of the Safari Zone as a different encounter, I eventually caught this Larvitar because he was legitimately the only encounter we didn't have from the specific area that he was found in, and I decided to use him. So we called him Rex, put him in our team, and decided to just train him up for a long time until he eventually evolved into P, which of course isn't quite Tyranitar yet, but it's still a very good start to potentially get one of the best Pokemons in this game. And after everyone was leveled up, I decided to finally challenge Claire, our final gym leader of this journey. And it was fucking bloody. As she starts off with Gyarados, which I didn't expect. I expected her to start off with the Dragonair. So we switch out Worm into Maggie, and Maggie could quite easily beat it. Knows that she's gonna hit Dragon Race, but he almost dies in the process. So yeah, that didn't feel great. But afterwards she did eventually switch to Dragonair, and our Worm just destroys her Dragonairs with ease. So I just kept spamming a single Dragon move. I knew Maggie was very much almost dead, so I had to heal him up at some point. So I put in Ball, which didn't look like a great idea because her Kingdra just kept on attacking us very badly. So I decided to sacrifice Ball, even though our only purpose of him training up was to beat this Kingdra, and he got quite easily beaten. So Maggie got switched in, and after a while of her just healing her Kingdra and us healing Maggie, we were kind of in a stalemate. And after a while, she didn't have any potions or full restores anymore. So I just kept on trying our thunderous attacks. Like, I honestly, it took me so long, and it took a lot of hard work, and it did take one death. Which I hate to say, but at least she was a good sport about it. No, of course she wasn't a good sport about it. Like, this battle took so long that I even had to PP train or upgrade. Like, I had to restore PP from our Magnemite's moves. That's how bad this and how long this took. And we also replaced Tangrowth with Eevee again. Like, Umbreon, please just evolve for once. And after doing that, we basically just said that we weren't gonna kill our own Pokemons, even though that is this entire challenge really. So we did eventually get our actual gym bed. Oh yeah, and we also got a Master Ball. I wonder who will use it on. And after beating the Kimono Girls, our Umbreon tried to evolve into an Espeon, but brother, you're literally named after it. Then we went into this weird cave, in which we did finally get our actual evolution, which of course was Umbreon to Umbreon. After going through that horrible cave, we eventually got to the Kimono Girls who did a weird dance, and we finally found our box legendary, Lugia. And even though I used to play this game a lot on my DS when I was younger, I have never gotten to this point, so this was actually like a very emotional moment for me. Like, this still feels weird to see. That's just one thing that I really love about these Nuzlocks that I'm just doing currently. It's because, like, I'm getting to complete games that I've never completed before. And I have so many fond memories of this, but we did catch Lugia. Not gonna use it though, because against Nuzlocke rules, I'm not gonna use a legendary because he's just too strong. And after a bit of traveling, we got to Route 27, which was our first steps into the Kanto region. And to be sure that we're actually here, they made the first trainer you face have one of the starters of the Kanto region. And because of that, we eventually got to Victory Road, which honestly is more just annoying rather than tough. Because at this point, I basically had enough Pokemons to beat everything. So, yeah, I didn't think it was that hard, to be honest. And then of course we had to beat our rival one more time. And once again, he is genuinely really easy to beat, even when our Pokemons are almost dead. Now, to be honest, after beating his first Pokemon with ease, we got a bit of a scare when Shinma almost died. But we just had to heal and that was basically it. Other than that, every single Pokemon of his was very easy to beat. And then somehow he has the nerve to say, wait, what did I do wrong? Brother, you got a Pokemon that evolves through friendship. And you haven't evolved it yet. How have you done that? How are you even trying to beat the Elite Four, bro? I do quite like that though. Like, that's a bit of a story that I do like. Like, Asshat didn't love his Pokemon, and that is why he didn't evolve a friendship Pokemon. I like the storyline behind that, but it just doesn't make any sense that why he would have it. And to get us ready for the Elite Four, I decided to make some changes as I deleted Shinma from our team and also Eggy, but Eggy wasn't really that big of a part of it anyway, I just used her for Fly. And their replacements were Lebronina, which I immediately evolved all the way into Nidoqueen, and of course the Red Gyarados, who was just, I'll be honest, too powerful to let stay in the box. I tried to not do it, but I couldn't really. So after getting our strongest team together, it was finally time to face the Elite Four. And our first opponent of the Elite Four was Will with his Psychic types, which we should have quite a few counters for, as we literally have a Dark type and a few Pokemon who knew quite a few Dark type moves. And he started off with his Satu, who was actually quite easy work with Umbreon, as he just tried to copy everything Umbreon did, and that was just not very effective every single time, so I sped it up a bit. But the next one, Executor, took a long time to do. I honestly think it took me like a few minutes to finally beat this thing, because it just kept on putting Umbreon to sleep, kept on healing by full restores, and just kept on using Reflect, which made it a lot harder and a lot longer to beat. Like, it wasn't even that bad, it just took a very long time. And next up was Jinx, which was very easy to beat, but it did do the most damage to Umbreon so far with this Ice Punch and one more attack with... I had to switch when he put out a Slowbro because I couldn't risk the chance of Umbreon dying. And Maggie basically one-shotted him, and afterwards the Satu wasn't that bad to deal with as well, because, you know, Flying type, Electric type, it wasn't that hard to do. Another one-shot. So that was our first Elite Four member done, and we still had our entire team, which I was very happy about. And next up was Koga with his Poison types, and as you might remember, the last time we did a Nuzlocke, Koga was a pain in the ass and killed a few of our good Pokemons. And this time around I was quite scared of his Muk still, but all the other Pokemons were basically very easy to beat. Unless they kept protecting themselves or trying to destroy themselves, but it didn't really take a lot of thinking work to do this, as most of the Pokemons were just beaten by basically Maggie just being very strong. Worm took out his Ariados, which, you know, wasn't really a danger, to be honest, because I was really scared that he was just gonna spam Minimize again and just destroy everything I have. But it wasn't that bad to deal with this time around, which, like, I really don't mind. I think it's very fine and I'm very happy with it, so let's go, I guess. And then his last Pokemon was Crobat, and we just sent in Red, and yeah, it wasn't that hard. And I'll be honest, I had a lot of confidence going into the next battle, because we haven't lost any of our Pokemons yet, and we're already through 2 of our Elite Four.
And our next challenge was trying to fight Bruno with his fighting types, which this was one of the ones that I was very scared about, because we didn't have anything against the fighting. Like, we were just gonna have to beat them by having strong Pokemons, and I was very scared of that. And I'll be honest, we started off quite well by beating his first few Pokemons after a little bit of trouble. I just started to just Dragon Dance with Red and hope that he would just solo the entire team, which he did quite easily, up until Machamp, who Rock Slide and killed our best Pokemon. And I was stressing at this point because I had absolutely nothing, and even Worm almost got destroyed by one. Afterwards I switched out to Croaky, and Croaky, it wasn't pretty, but I just had to do the dirtiest tactic possible and just kept on healing my Pokemon. And like I said, I'm not too proud about it, but it was genuinely the only way to beat this Machamp. He was too fucking tough to actually do anything about him. And then with his Hitmonlee, we basically just went back and forth with the same thing again. And he just kept confusing me, so I had to keep fully restoring. And eventually we did get the win. But damn, this was tough. So after a lot of planning, we finally got to Karen, which had Dark-type Pokemons, and once again we didn't really have anything for that. But this actually wasn't that bad. Like, basically what I experienced was that her Umbreon took a long time to go down, and I basically just had attacks that could hit it anyway, and she was just spamming Double Team. And afterwards we basically just had a Pokemon for each of her Pokemon, so that it would just win. Like, it took a long time because she kept spamming like things that poisoned me or like paralyzed me. But other than that, it was an easy run. And up until she put on her Gengar, who destiny bonded with Lebronina, which basically just means that if you kill it, it takes you with him. Which it did. So we lost our second Pokemon in the Elite Four. But after a bit of healing and battling again, Maggie decided to beat her Murkrow, and we finally defeated our last Elite Four member. And after switching our team around, we could finally start with our final battle of this video. This would mean that we would either win this or go down trying, as we faced off against champion Lance. Lance? I still don't know how to pronounce his name, but he has a strong team and a full team as well, which is just bad enough. But he did start off with Gyarados, so I decided to start off with Maggie, which I thought would have been a very good choice, but he flinched immediately, so I guess fuck me then. And his Gyarados just kept on spamming Waterfall, and we were basically almost dead before we even did anything. But we did one-shot his Gyarados though, so that's a good. But because Maggie almost died doing basically the simplest battle, we had to switch out to Croaky, especially when he put in his Charizard, who did more than half the damage of Croaky's health with just an Air Slash. Which honestly is just unfair, so I had to full restore again and just hope for the best, but yeah, I think you can tell where this is going. I had to full restore a lot in this video. And then after a while I thought, well, I can just attack now because I survived one. And I did. But it was just about, and we did eventually kill his Charizard after taking way too long. Like, we almost didn't have any full restores left. And next up was his Dragonite, which took a very long time to defeat with Maggie because he just kept on spamming electrical attacks against an electric type. And he also just kept on healing, which I also did, so I can't really cry about it. But eventually he sent out just another stronger Dragonite who completely destroyed us with one Fire Blast. Which, yeah, that's unfair. I didn't know he had that. Which is really bad considering Maggie was basically our only Pokemon that we could use against this Dragonite, as he completely destroyed everything else. He one-shotted Worm, Maggie was dead, and we basically only had Umbreon and Croaky left. So I only had one plan. And that was to heal and just hope for the best. I don't even know how, but Umbreon decided to just live the first attack from Dragonite. So I could just try and hold on for a little bit. But he did get a critical hit immediately afterwards, so that's not a great start. And then we only had Croaky left, who we didn't heal. Yeah, it wasn't looking great. At this point I was basically just hoping for him to just miss one of his things, one of his attacks. He tried to Fire Blast against the water type, which I thought was really odd, but somehow it of course got me burned. Like, the luck could not have been worse. He still had two other Pokemons left after this, by the way, so yeah. We lost. On our final battle, we lost and we wiped. Which basically means that we lost the entire run because of this battle. And it feels kinda ironic that I was crying the entire game, that it was too easy. and that we just lost with the Pokemon that we got, our first ever Pokemon in this game. And we lost him as the last one. I found my first ever shiny on this run, and I mean, at least he didn't die, but it honestly feels like I failed him. I failed Shinma, and he wasn't even taken to the Elite Four. And I probably could have done a few things better, but I did it my way, and that's the best I can do. And after all the grinding, everything we've done, it's all just over like this. Feels like I'm not done with this game yet, but this run is over and we lose everything we've done so far.